I don't even know what this thing is called, and these companies keep making quads left and right, and they try to build some sort of identity around them, but I don't even know if you guys even care what I'm talking about anymore about this quad. But this particular quad, somehow I keep finding one genuinely interesting thing about each of these products to talk about, and I just keep talking and talking. So let's talk about the quad real quick and then talk about that one genuinely interesting thing. So first of all, this is a 5-inch quad. It's from iFlight. It has some super nifty Sing motors on there. They're 2306, I think 1700, yeah, 1700 kV. They are fantastic motors. These are some of my favorite motors in the industry. They are the expensive version of the motor. The budget version is $14 and is the only motor I actually recommend people spend money on at this point, just because it performs so exceptionally well for its value, and it's the same performance as all the top motors. So why bother spending the money? The only difference is the lower grade aluminum and the steel shaft. And so you're getting a lot for your money. The rest of this quad, you obviously saw that it has these LEDs. They are LED, I'm pretty sure they're RGB. I haven't tried to change the colors on them, but they do have 3 wires to them, going to them, so I can only assume that they are addressable. The ESC board in there is a 6S, who knows what ESC. It has a massive 1 watt VTX with a huge heatsink, not massive because of the 1 watt, massive because of a huge heatsink on top of it. And this particular version has Crossfire built in, which in my opinion just helps any product you put Crossfire on it, because it's really the only protocol that I personally recommend to everybody without exception, because it works and it works well. I don't recommend R9. I have tried R9 quite a bit. Yeah, I just don't recommend R9. I have lots of them, and I really have tried it really hard, but it's just not that great. Anyways, it's better at a couple things. I'll talk about it later. Anyways, the rest of this quad is TPU. It's essentially entirely TPU. The whole thing's made of TPU. I mean, there's so much freaking TPU on this thing, and the all-up weight of this with the 1000 milliamp 6 SGMB pack and the GoPro and the TPU mount and everything is 671 grams. And that is a pretty hefty weight in my opinion, but I'm pretty sure it's about average for what most people are building today. Still, people are covering their quads with TPU and adding all sorts of meaningless things. In my opinion, I mean, maybe you find a whole lot of value in adding these LEDs, but in my opinion, I don't see a point in adding 20 grams of LEDs at all. I mean, if you're flying on your own, I don't know. I unfortunately, I don't have enough time to be socially flying with people, so I just haven't seen as much value in the LEDs. To me, the biggest value of LEDs is that if you crash and your battery's still plugged in, you can find your quad much easier, because I'm just accustomed to not putting beepers on my quads, and my little micros don't make enough noise from the motors to actually find them unless you're just 2 feet away from them. Anyways, continuing on with this quad. The frame is great. It actually is really great. It's not particularly fantastic, but it's great in the sense that it looks like it's really nice carbon, and it is super duper strong feeling, and it does feel like it's going to hold up to whatever you give it, but it's definitely not light. The camera, honestly, I really don't know what to say about these quads anymore to make them interesting. I really only have negative things to say about them, and this is 671 grams all-up weight with this only 1 battery strap on it also. As you will see from the flight footage, the ESC board, so the dipping issue with ESCs, you'll see later in the flight footage, the dipping issue with ESCs still exists to this day. I first noted it like 4 years ago, and I was talking to Boris about it, and he wasn't even aware of it, and then I noted it, and he's like, huh, interesting. And then we had, not air mode, but we had anti-gravity mode pop up, and well, before anti-gravity, there was some other stuff that popped up. Then we had anti-gravity mode pop up, and then that kept getting better and better, and it sort of got somewhat okay, and then got worse and okay. And what I discovered myself is that if I would go from ESC to ESC, there were some ESCs that particularly performed better than others, and I thought that was because of better quality FETs or not used FETs. I still have no idea if that's valid to this day, but the first ESCs that I found that were really even and really fantastic performance were actually the ESCs from T-Motor, I believe. The T-Motor something ESC, they only made like one ESC way, way long ago. The first one they ever made, it was actually a really fantastic ESC, and it performed excellent. And so I kept using that on my quads because of how even it was. I lost that quad or was gone, whatever happened, and everything kind of flew like crap up until I got into the Helio boards. When I first started flying the Helio board, I immediately noticed, just the initial moment I set off on the throttle, I noticed that it was like a video game. And so it was incredible how stable that dipping, bubbling issue was with the Helios stuff. And I haven't tried Emu Flight, I haven't tried Betaflight 4.1, I haven't tried RPM filtering, but you can see in this particular quad, that annoying problem still persists. Maybe it's just the one I got, maybe it's just this particular ESC. It's not really a big deal. I am super nitpicking. I have been doing this a while, so I have exceptionally high standards. So I'm going to point out all of the issues I see. And aside from that, the other issue, obviously, if you've been watching me, you know I am not a fan of TPU. I'm not a fan of super heavy stuff just added to the quad for the sake of adding it to the quad, because it does impact flight performance. Now, flight performance, that's where I'm trying to get to on this quad. I really don't understand how I just keep talking and talking about it forever. I mean, I literally can keep talking about anything. But let's talk about the flight performance, because what is very special about this particular quad is that it has a dual gyro F7 built into it. And they actually sent me one in the past, but I plugged it in and something was up with it and it just burnt out on me the first time. So I never got a chance to test any dual gyro boards or the F7 version of the iFlight. I honestly don't think the F7 really makes any difference. I've tested a ton of F7 boards and they don't fly. I don't even know which of my quads have an F7 and which of my quads have an F4 in them. That being said, even if I put a Naze 32 in a quad, it would fly the same. As I proved a year ago, it flew just as good as any other quad. It just doesn't have an OSD, so there you have it. So this quad with 2 gyros and an F7, I don't know if the F4 is capable of running 2 gyros and updating everything in real time, and I don't know how much the code plays into the F7 with the dual gyros, but I do know that Betaflight now has a drop box for how many gyros you have on the board. And so this quad is heavy, and it flies unusually very well for its weight. Yes, I can still get just the touch of prop wash attitude out of it, but this thing essentially flies like a video game aside from the annoying dipping. And I don't know if that's to do with the dual gyro, because I haven't flown a dual gyro flight controller yet on any other quad, but it does genuinely fly different than any of my other quads. And despite its high weight, it's still performing fantastically well. Now, speed and just like the pep of it and its ability to kind of grip through the air and fly like the way I want it to fly is a little bit tarnished by its weight, but it still has a whole lot of performance. And I particularly like the props a lot as well. These are some of my favorite props. Very similar to how the Johnny prop has that kind of blending effect when you use it. It kind of feels like it's blending all your stick movements together. This prop also feels sort of like it's blending your stick movements together. It's not the most accurate prop when it comes to kind of like ducking and dodging and doing really fine proximity movements, but when it comes to videography and smooth flying, this is hands down my favorite prop. It's better than the S4, the S3, the upcoming GemFan props. I haven't tried the S5 prop, but this prop really, really performs nicely for video shooting kind of alone. It flies great for everything else as well, but specifically for the purpose of video filming, this prop flies really exceptionally well, and I do use it for video filming if I'm going to be doing something like that. So yeah, this quad flies great. I'm going to be testing this dual gyro business more. I might have the energy to put another flight controller in this quad. Probably not. I'll probably just send this quad to one of my Patreons in a couple weeks, when I get a chance to print more shipping labels. And yeah, if you're looking for this sort of a quad, this is a pretty well-built quad. I don't know if the ESC issue is an inherent issue in the actual like PCB, the actual product of the ESC, or if it's an issue in the flight code, or if it's an issue in something else going on. But the ESC is supposed to perform really well, and the quad has been built to a really nice, I mean, if you look at it, it looks really good. Like everything is really clean and neat and tidy in there. While the weight is unfortunate, it still flies pretty darn well. There's a lot of nothing, maybe, or maybe you found this interesting. I don't know. I hope these companies start making things that are a little bit more original, or at least have some more direction rather than trying to do the same thing over and over and just changing like one component and making it a new product again. Anyways, take care, floss your teeth, bye-bye.